we go for launch.
5.
Quiet, numbskulls, I'm broadcasting.
Anything can happen in the next half hour.
4.
My friend, we cannot keep this a secret any longer.
This whole thing is insane.
3.
Quiet, please. I am analyzing.
Where's the kaboom?
2.
There was supposed to be an earth-shattering kaboom.
1.
Or we die.
Admiral on the bridge. And Captain on the bridge.
You will probably find this inspection boring for the likes of you two.
Boring?
Well, we won't be blowing things up. Taking or engaging in fire, crash landing expectedly or unexpectedly.
Those were the days. There is something coming.
Battle stations.
Some kind of attack. And Starfleet could be the target.
There's a darkness. An all-consuming darkness.
And it is getting stronger.
Jean-Luc, trust no one.
Jean-Luc Picard. We will have vengeance.
You and I have traveled to the far reaches of space. But something's different now. This is the end, my friend.
Geordi!
Such pathetic old warriors.
I, too, was once irrational, violent.
Is anybody you know still the person you knew?
This is life or death.
It's always life or death, Jean-Luc. When has it not been?
With each ticking moment, I will take another piece of you.
Battle stations!
Survival. It's human nature, pal.
We fight or we die.
Hold it! Gun it!
I need you. All of you.
We're with you. Always.
Engage. Will, are you enjoying this? Of course not.
Are you?
And on this episode of the all video Planet 8 podcast, we will be discussing not season 1, not season 2 because they stunk, but season 3, the winter series of Picard. And we are fortunate. That's right.
We have a winner.
We are very fortunate to have our good friend Lord Blood-Rah with us to help us not only celebrate the 3rd season of Picard, but our 5th anniversary since we launched Planet 8 podcast. So
congratulations, guys.
Thank you, Lord
sir.
Blood-Rah, and thank you for being here with us today.
Thank you for inviting me. I'm always happy to be here. Thank you.
Did we know going into this thing that we'd still be doing this 5 years later?
I don't think so.
No.
But we still got stuff to talk about. And now we have video. This is incredible.
Hey.
This technology called a camera that has finally hit Planet 8.
This must be the future.
It only took
has to
5
be.
years.
That's right. People be tuning in and expecting to see a static graphic there.
That's right.
And other people be tuning into the audio version and wondering what the heck we're talking about.
If you are tuning into the audio version at some point, when you finish the audio version, go over to the YouTube channel. You get to see all antics. But anyway, let's dive into Picard season 3. We are all, to a degree, Star Trek fans. Some more so the original series, some more so Next Gen, Deep Space Nine, et cetera, et cetera. Let me just start off by saying this season 3 of Picard, I try to be very optimistic with my viewing, expectations. But after season 1 and 2, I was just, now I am a diehard Data fan. I think he had one of the best developmental stories of character in the Next Generation, and how they ended his story in Nemesis. It pisses me off. Sorry, you're gonna have to beat me on that, Chief, if we don't allow that kind of language on Planet 8. The only good thing about that first season of Picard is Data. The first episode and the last episode gave him what I thought was closure. And then they did that weird thing going in the past in the second season. And I'm like, what the hell are you guys doing? Redemption in season 3. And they made us wait for it like a fine caviar or wine. He wasn't in the first half of the series. Right. But I will say this, and you guys are going to dive in a minute. Give me a Riker series. The way that Riker carried himself in those first couple of episodes, waxing philosophical with Jean-Luc at the pub, or in the bunk beds talking about his, when he was a cadet, and just Dave's kiss. Superb. I'll tell you what, let's kick it over to someone who wasn't that excited about. Just kidding. Chief, take it away.
Could that be me? No, I love this series. Well, the season anyway, not the whole series.
Were you surprised how much you enjoyed it?
Well, it's funny because when I looked online and they had that one video where they showed the whole cast like one at a time, and so that you knew that, okay, this whole cast, except for Wesley Crusher, we're all coming back for this season.
Thank God.
And I thought, that could be interesting. It may be like Star Trek: The Next Generation in slow motion. but no, I thought the writing was very interesting, and I thought, when we got kind of later in the season. And spoiler alerts, we had the
all these spoilers all over the place. Yeah.
Oh yeah, this is super spoilery.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, just if you haven't seen it, turn us off now. But
and then come back later.
Yeah, after
the whole thing with the transporter spreading the Borg virus and only infecting the crew members that were under 25. Okay, so then that suddenly explained why we need all the old folks there.
Right.
Because the old folks had immunity or whatever, and they were able to save the day. But in the previous seasons, it's like, okay, why are these old people like trying to save the universe and all that? Yeah. But I definitely agree about Riker. I think he chewed up the scenery in just about every scene he was in. I think starting from episode 1, season 1, this thing should have been like a Picard Riker roadshow.
Yeah.
Just the two of them playing off each other. Just have the two of them and then bring everybody in on the third season. But it was funny reading some comments by the producers and the crew, all saying that they felt like they had to make up for Star Trek Nemesis.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, they were all they were saying, well, we wanted to do this and we wanted to do that, and we had to make up for Nemesis, or we had to, make up for something that happened in Nemesis. So they were well aware of how the Next Generation kind of went out in the movies. And this was their chance to give them an actual final farewell worthy of the show.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So, and, I thought all the characters had their own interesting development or plots. I actually liked Jack, Picard's son.
Yeah.
Interesting character.
Yeah.
Supposedly, I guess he's going on in another series, but I guess that would be the next generation, right? So,
the generation after.
I really, bringing Data back the last couple seasons seemed kind of forced. I think this season, though, where he had to go through the whole thing where he and Lore are kind of going back and forth, and then finally Data wins out, but he's got Lore's personality in him, and now suddenly he's suddenly got emotions and more character. And
right.
I thought that was a good development rather than just, okay, I'm Data and I'm back.
Yeah.
I defeated Lore and I'm back. What do you want me to do?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So,
yeah. Or a really lazy way to have done it was have the battle continue. Like, can't we trust Data? We don't know if we can trust him because Laura's still in there, and
they kind of did that for that one episode.
That one episode, which made sense.
But by the time the episode was over, it was established that
that they had completely melded into one, and he became a real boy. Data has become a real boy, and that's with Data's personality still, which is very. The writing on season 3 is just spot on. Yeah. Each character was true to the character, yet true to the character 35 years on. You could see this is where the characters would be. And I mean, just to go back for a minute, I saw season 1, a few eye-rolling moments. I thought it was all right. Season 2 of Picard, to me, is to Star Trek what the Star Wars holiday special is to Star Wars. I don't know how it got made. I don't understand how they produced this thing.
Lord Blood-Rah, let me ask you, how could you screw that up when you had a character like Q in that season? And it just,
because it was not about Picard, it was about Patrick Stewart's childhood.
Right.
That's it. That's exactly
it. Hit the nail on the head, Walker.
That is exactly it. And even to the point wherein I was worried about Patrick Stewart after season 2 because he came off just as this doddering old man spouting flowery superlatives, wherever he went. In season 3, he is Picard. He's in command. He's older, but he's still that character. He's still.
There was still gravitas to the Picard character. I thought, when he said engage, it was like, whoa, yes, sir.
Picard. Picard is back.
Well, I think too with season 3, with Picard anyway, season 1 and 2, they're kind of forcing him into action.
Yeah.
Here's 80-year-old guy running and whatever. And it's like season 3. He was more in command. He was a commander. He was cerebrally solving problems and figuring things out rather than trying to go and beat someone up or run after something or whatever. It's like,
and he seemed more of that commanding officer. Like he felt more in command, more authoritative as the series went on. The first couple of episodes, he still seemed a little doddering and he was really taken aback by Shaw. But then, especially once he learned like, oh, I have a son, then he started telling people, do this, do that. And by the time he got in the center seat on the bridge of Enterprise D, he was in command. He felt like he could make these decisions. And there was a change even in the timbre of his voice.
Yes.
And I felt that was totally orchestrated. I felt like this had been something planned by the writers and with Patrick Stewart to kind of, have him do this throughout that season. Because, as you said before, the first 2 seasons, he just came across as like, Mr. Magoo or something. He was just totally wandering around, kind of bumping. So it was very, I don't want to say disturbing, but it was certainly not very satisfying to see that character in that kind of position in those
right.
seasons.
And in this season, even Rafaela, who was a character I
yes,
I thought she was just a terrible human being. The way what she did to who was the Romulan ninja? I forgot the name.
Legolas.
Yeah, Legolas. The way she treated him and just her, and was so reckless in the past. I mean, how the time police didn't like pull them over and yank them out of the time stream. I don't understand, because season 2 was ridiculous. But anyway, her character in this was fantastic, and her and Worf together,
agreed,
were wonderful. And all of them, all the characters in this, and they knocked it out of the park. A lot of it was the writing, but also the acting. Each one of them. These are actors who knew these characters inside and out, agreed with what they were doing in the script, and just nailed it.
Absolutely. I think Worf, Michael Dorn, helped me appreciate Rafaela more so. Almost like, his Ray Shields, and they kind of covered her as well, and her acting, and just, Rafaela, you have come far. How has she come so far, Mr. Worf? It just pulled you in.
Worf pulled her along. I thought the other interesting thing too was they shot season 2 and season 3 just about simultaneously.
Right. Well, it was back to back, I guess.
Yeah. Well, no, they said they were shooting them both at the same time.
That's
up until like March or something, and then season 2 wrapped. And then 3 continued.
Yeah, back to back.
But for the first part of it, first few months, they were both being shot simultaneously.
Thank God. It's night and day.
Well, they had to use a lot of the same sets. They had to amortize the costs over both seasons to be able. You think about how much all of those actors cost to bring onto the show, right? Sure. It ain't cheap. And it really was almost like not just a bottle episode, but a bottle season, in that they didn't go out and shoot on location, and it was all on those sets, right? But it's amazing what they did. It didn't feel claustrophobic or anything. It really felt like, stuff is moving, things are happening, you're going places. Just such a smart season. The way they planned everything out and how they brought everybody in. They didn't bring everybody in at one episode. They, first they got Riker's coming in, and Worf's coming in, and Geordi. So they just brought everybody in, and it all felt very organic. It didn't feel forced, right? And I think that was the key to it, and they worked with the actors to talk about like what kind of, where do you see, or what's a key thing you think, Worf would be doing or Geordi would be doing. And so everybody was comfortable with the direction their characters went. And, the writing was magnificent. And I mean, there were a few things that I was kind of like, so there was Borg material in Picard's sperm. Okay.
Genetically, yeah.
That doesn't make a lot of sense to me.
Entire being, but
Which made me think, was Locutus early on an experiment by the Borg? Were they seeing this day coming when he might pass this on genetically and create a transmitter rather than a receiver?
I mean,
like Locutus was?
Yeah, there's some stuff, or like, I guess the material, the genetic material that was in the transporter, it didn't immediately turn them into Borg. It had to be turned on with the signal.
Yeah.
Well, I think they kind of gave up making people Borg. It's like once they went to the transporter, they were being controlled, and they had certain, features and things, but they didn't suddenly become cybernetic Borg creatures.
Yeah.
So
they were biologically now rather than technologically.
Yeah. It was almost like they were being assimilated mentally.
Exactly.
Rather than physically.
Yeah.
Although they still had the little lines and stuff on their faces.
What the Queen said, the future of the Borg is not technology, it's evolution.
Well, I wonder if other Borg were able to get jiggy with it, or was it just Locutus? one would think that there was, experiments. Seven of Nine, for example.
Special
Locutus was
implants.
Locutus was special. Locutus was meant to be a liaison between humans and the Borg. So he had some special genetic apparatus placed in him.
Well, more than we knew.
So and he even said after the stuff was taken, the machine parts were taken out, he could still hear the Borg.
Well, and that's
he
the same
wasn't
with
like
Nine.
full Borg. He was like the first kind of hybrid.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. If you guys have watched Voyager, 7 of 9 leaving the collective, and the Queen then coveted 7 and wanted her back because of that individuality. There was something about that quality that the Queen believed the Borg needed. Now, we have to assume that the Queen already knew that Locutus had whatever it was, mojo to help him create the receiver, the transponder, or Jack, basically.
Yeah.
And so there's these layers, I think, that were not explored, that if we get a 7 of 9 and Jack series, they might explore further, or maybe not.
Yeah, well, I mean, talk about the planning. It's like they're rolling the dice on whether or not Picard would actually reproduce. And then once he did, then they had to wait, 20 some years,
right,
for Jack to mature.
And actually, I don't think that was their plan. Their plan was just to destroy the Federation.
Yeah.
With Locutus, and then this happened. And wasn't it the Queen said? Because there was, I don't think I saw this episode of Voyager, by the way, where, no, actually I did, where Janeway essentially destroyed the Borg and they were just left like vacant. She talked about the emptiness until she heard the voice,
right?
Until she heard Jack Crusher just, I guess, inadvertently sending out signal. Then she had to go after him.
Okay, because at that point, that's when she started eating the Borg to sustain herself.
Exactly. Yeah.
During that time period.
Yeah.
Let's not forget the changelings. That caught me by surprise.
Yeah.
And the evolution of the changelings. Now, I know I'm watching this series on Amazon, 55 years in the center seat or something like that. It's all the different versions of Star Trek, gets into the different ships and the captains and stuff. But one of the things they were saying is that when Deep Space Nine first came out, the first couple of seasons were bottle shows because the changeling effects were so damn expensive. And they had an ensemble cast. It wasn't just like, the big three that we'd had in the original series.
Right. Yeah.
Full crew. So them to bring in the changelings in season 3 and be different than the changelings before, and I thought they handled it very smartly. And it was 1 or 2 sentences of Worf basically saying he spoke with Odo, and Odo told him, these aren't our changelings, these are
right.
And I was like,
okay.
I have nothing to do with that.
Yeah,
created by Section 31.
Well, so and bravo that we're going to have Michelle Yao returning with a section. Yeah. I mean, it's exciting. Well,
if Terry Matalas does it. If Terry Matalas does it, I think it'll be great.
I
agree.
Yeah,
I trust him now.
The whole Section 31 concept, I think, has been abused, but that's
I would agree with that. I would agree with that point. I mean, some of the, again, going back to Deep Space Nine, some of the most intriguing Deep Space Nine episodes involve Section 31.
Yeah, but I think the way they went at it on Discovery was misguided.
Agreed. But if they can fix things in season 3 of Picard, they can fix. You have an Oscar-winning actress that has such gravitas. And anyway, we're talking about Picard, not Michelle Yao.
That kind of what you just mentioned. That's kind of why I really love Picard season 3 too, is because they either just flat out ignored what happened in season 2 or dealt with it with a couple of throwaway lines.
He's got a synthetic body.
Q. Yeah, I thought you were dead. Well, you think so linearly. It's just like,
yes.
Beautiful. Just ignore all that. That didn't happen. That was a bad dream.
Well, at one point, when they find out like it's Borg, the tech or whatever, Crusher says, well, nobody's heard from the Borg in ages. And it's like,
10
they were
years.
just in the last season.
I know.
That was
Yeah.
future Borg, not current Borg. Come on.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
the other thing, which is interesting, I don't know how much connection Picard has to Discovery, but the Klingons in Discovery did not look like Worf. So
No. That's
suddenly reverted back to.
Wow.
That's awful.
Well, and if you see the trailers for the second season of Strange New Worlds, those Klingons look like a version of the classic era movies Klingons.
So let's see how they explain this.
Right.
They even try.
I was
We do not talk of it.
That is such a convoluted.
Yeah.
The
I was
Klingon.
watching Day of the Dove the other night on MeTV.
Yes.
And, Michael and Sarah as Kang. I mean, he was pretty cool looking.
Yeah.
He didn't have all the edges, but,
Great acting.
They look great.
All the Klingons in that episode look really sweaty, though. It's a weird makeup job. It's like they're all real moist looking.
They're shiny Klingons.
Yeah.
Well, the little things like that I can let go by. I mean, look, let's talk about the fact that they have the remains of Admiral Kirk in that facility.
Yeah, what are they going to do?
What?
Was that just to screw with us, or is there actually something?
Harry Matalas ran the show, said he was very dissatisfied with Kirk's death. So he threw that in as kind of a little Easter egg.
Yeah.
Which, when you think about it,
go back
make sense. They had to go to that planet to get the saucer section. So they wouldn't basically, the prime directive. So while they were there, they picked up Kirk's body too. What they're going to do with it now.
A lot of times I'll visit with Karen and she's like, what were you doing? I'm like, oh, I was driving home today and I was thinking, if I were to bring back Benjamin Sisko, how would I go about doing that? Or if I were to bring back James Kirk, how would I go about doing that? And the fact that he was in the Nexus and left the Nexus, is there some kind of energy around his cells? Or, the imagination then starts to, or could it be that there was Gorn DNA, it boggles the mind.
Yeah.
It's been a long time since I read The Return, which was the novel that Shatner wrote.
Yeah.
But he had it all figured out how he could come back after generations, and there was a whole, I think he had a series of 6 novels or something
like that.
Yeah, it was crazy. But the only thing now, of course, is Shatner could not play the role, but that doesn't stop them from doing things with Harrison Ford in the next Indiana Jones movie and regressing him 40 years or whatever.
Deep fakes. Yeah. Shatner can do the voice.
Mm-hmm.
Well, they've got Christopher Pine.
AI voice. What? Bob?
They got Christopher Pine, right? They can bring him in.
Possibly. I mean, supposedly there's still gonna be a Star Trek movie in that timeline at some point.
Well, and then there's the other Kirk that was in Strange New Worlds.
That guy, nothing against the actor, but that guy is he's just not Kirk.
Feels
He's
really
okay.
miscast.
Have you guys seen the Roddenberry archives?
Oh yes, that's quite
the video,
interesting.
Yeah, and I read that the Spock person is an actor. There's no CGI at all.
No, that's CGI.
That's what I read.
That face is CGI.
Well, I don't know.
If that's true, that's amazing, because I just assumed it was a deep fake.
I assumed as well, and maybe the article was a deep fake, and I fell for that too.
Maybe it was AI lying to you.
Wait, have they been genetically creating actors? Are they going to do the 4th year?
So
well, look what they did with Luke in The Mandalorian. He didn't bring anybody back at this point.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
That's the thing.
But going back to Kirk's body,
yeah,
that whole scene was kind of cool, because the first thing you see as they're going through is Genesis.
The Genesis, yeah. The Genesis torpedo.
That's the first thing you see. And then you see Kirk's body. And there were a couple other Easter eggs in there as well.
The killer dribble.
Yeah.
It scared Worf.
Yeah, it scared Worf. That's
But
right.
yeah, and then there was also when they were amassing all the starships and they have them all up on the screen, I had to freeze frame it just to go in and look at all the names of all the starships. Because there was stuff in there like the USS Trumbull.
Right. Yeah.
And things like that, that like some of them were pretty deep as far as, you know, if you're a Star Trek fan, I couldn't even pick out all of them, but there are quite a few in there.
The one thing I had a problem.
Chekhov?
Sorry, what was that, Lord Blood-Rah?
President Anton Chekhov.
That was a very
Federation
nice
tribute to Chekhov and Anton Yelchin, who played.
Yes, and Walter got to be in a series that no one else from the original cast was in. So
yes,
take and that Walter animated series.
Voice work.
Yeah,
yeah. Well, one of the things I was saying I had a problem with was, you know, the Federation's arch enemy nemesis was the Borg, and we're gonna have a program that puts our ships together and functions like the Borg, and it'll be a collective. And then it happens to be Shelby who like authorized all this, and it's like,
and they comment on it in the series.
Right.
Riker says, of all people, to pass on this idea.
So there's maybe one or two things that could be happening here, right? So either Shelby got so into studying the Borg and so deeply, you know, entrenched in their way of thought that she mimicked them, right? Without thinking, that like, oh, this is a terrible idea. Or the order came from on high, from like a bunch of changelings maybe that have taken over parts of Starfleet to
I think there was probably some type of influence in there to
they got Tuvok. So
they got Tuvok. And let's talk about Ro Laren.
Oh, that was a big one for me.
Me too. I was just like, and then, and she had that moment with Picard to be able to say, you know, I hurt you, you hurt me.
Right.
And, you know, how many times have we had conversations with either our children or our loved ones, or misunderstandings and miscommunication that go on for years?
Yeah. Well, and that was always a character. Ro Laren was like that character that could defy that Roddenberry, you know, box or whatever you want to call it, that, oh, there's no conflict, you know, and she really brought something special to the show when she was there. And I think she only had like maybe 6 episodes or something
that.
Like that.
And one of them was her as a child with Whoopi Goldberg.
Yeah, which was a terrible, but still, you know.
Yeah.
But yeah, she was a great character. She brought conflict. She was interesting. The fact that she didn't necessarily fit in, and she had these convictions, and it wasn't, it wasn't like that episode where she decided to become a part of the Maquis. You couldn't really say she was wrong. You know, that was the thing between the two of them in that scene where they're, you know, kind of saying, well, you hurt my feelings and you did this. And neither of them, nobody was wrong and nobody was right. It was like they both had their stance. But yeah, that was a great send-off for her to be able to sacrifice herself, you know, and give them that gift of like, here, you guys go run with this. And, you know.
Right. Before we knew it was the changelings, when we first meet Vadic, who again, who I thought was an amazing character, the Amanda Plummer.
Yeah.
Right? Again, incredible performance. But she had that weird way of talking. I thought, oh, they're bringing back the bugs from season 1. Okay, this is going to be what it is. I thought, okay, she's infected with, and she's got the little blue deal on the back of her neck, which is, to me, still one of the greatest loose ends of the Next Generation, because they sent that signal, you know, where are they? But it's changelings, and I'm like, okay. And then they did what they did with the changelings. Great. Then we find out it's the Borg, and I kind of went, oh, okay, Borg again. All right. But what they did with it was fantastic, and that's why I say I trust Terry Matalas now.
Well, I absolutely was like, the Borg, Locutus is nutsack? Wait a minute, hold on. Rewind that again?
Well, let me ask you about this, because the big theme was that Picard had become a father, right? He was not, he at one point he says, oh, I was just going to sit in my vineyard and die, but now I have something to live for and all this other stuff. I don't know. On one hand, it's sweet and everything, but on the other hand, it struck me as a little bit odd because we also have had this theme, whether it's been in Next Generation or in classic Trek, where like the crew is a family. They're like a surrogate family, right? Mm-hmm. And so the idea that like, really, you didn't have anything to live for? You had these people in your life that were important to you, that you cared about deeply, but that wasn't enough. You had to like, and yes, it's important. He discovers he has a son and that's very meaningful, but it was a little, to me, a little maybe dishonest that he had nothing really to live for.
Well, there's a difference between friends and a partner. And you know, maybe I'm going further than they intended us to go. So I kind of get it. I mean, you know, and friends move on, friends find relationships, friends move to other states. And, you know, Walkie and I, when's the last time we embraced face to face?
Oh, I know. I'm just saying that I thought it was sort of a twisting of the theme that they had
throughout
previously.
What happened to Laris?
What's that?
What happened to Laris? The Romulan.
Yeah, in the first episode, and
you got the feeling at the end of season 2 that supposedly he could now open up and have a relationship with her.
Right.
And then the season starts with them together, and she says, "You've got to leave. I understand. You've got to go. Go." And they have made plans to meet on some planet somewhere.
Right.
Yeah, but that's before Beverly says, you know, your Borg sperm made a Borg baby, and
they should have put a quick scene in there. He contacts Laris and says, "Hey, babe,
I'm going to be late."
Well, you know, I thought it was interesting. They put that 5-minute scene in there where, you know, Jean-Luc, and I swear to God, there's a scene in Red Dwarf where Arnold Brimmer has a scene similar to that, where it's like, I hate to bother you, Captain Picard, but can I ask you about, well, I'm having my wine and food,
yes,
I'll entertain with, I'll regale you. And he's like, oh, and we did this and that and that. And they're like, well, what about a family? He's like, I don't need a family. I'm Admiral Picard. Right. And he remembers, oh shit, that was Jack sitting at the bar when I said I don't need, you know.
I was never clear if he actually remembered Jack or not.
There's a look in his face where he's like, oh shit. Yeah. It is how I took it.
Well, the second time they showed, because they showed that scene like twice.
Yeah.
Different perspective.
You know, where it like actually happened, and then him remembering it, and in his memory he realizes that Jack's sitting over there at the bar.
I'll have to go back and watch that.
Yeah. And you know, kind of going back to Amanda Plummer, I thought it was interesting that she's actually the daughter of Christopher Plummer.
Yes.
Who played a Klingon in Star Trek VI. So, or Star Trek characters.
It was
I thought she did a great job. At first when she first came on, it was kind of hard to take, but then as it went on, she became quite a good villain. Not quite to Khan's level, but
no, she bested Riker and Picard, though. I mean, you know, at first she got the better of them.
Yeah.
I guess I'm the only one who thought she was kind of annoying. I just thought she was just over the top. I mean, towards the end,
she was over the top.
She toned it down towards the end and everything, but I guess that whole crazy kind of cackling thing just kind of, it's like she would have been at home in the Black Forest with a cabin and putting the kids in the kettle, and you know, it just.
Then again, I mean, look at Khan. He's like one of the best villains, and he was pretty over the top. You know, all his Shakespearean quotes and everything.
Yeah, just in a way that didn't like irritate me and make me want to go up and like hit him with a 2x4.
He had that big fist, you know.
She was nuts. Yeah.
Yeah, she was around.
She was
around
fun.
The bend.
She was fun. She was a great, I thought, nemesis. Maybe a little lower the top, but let's talk about how you know, Ron Moore was one of the writers on Next Gen and Deep Space Nine, and comes to a point where it's like, okay, the fleet is acting like Borg. They're all connected. We need a ship that is not connected to the rest of the fleet. a la Battlestar Galactica.
They borrowed from a lot of things.
They did.
Sure.
In
Well,
an
they borrowed a lot
homage kind of
Star
way.
Trek. The whole space, the whole starship like battle and chase and through the nebula. I mean, it was all out of Star Trek too.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Oh, flying into the center of the Borg cube was straight out of Star Wars.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
That was Star Wars. Yeah.
And look, how many kids has Picard had or almost had between the series, Nemesis, and now season 3? Okay, this one's really his, but it was kind of like,
It's all about execution. If you execute it well, then people will forgive you. But I will admit, the first couple of episodes, 2 or 3 episodes, I was kind of like, are they just doing Wrath of Khan? We've got a sun, we've got like a nebula. It's like, what the hell? They're just riffing on Wrath of Khan. But it was so well done. And then we moved on to other things. But yeah, I was like really kind of worried. I was enjoying the first few episodes, but there were things that kind of had me concerned. And then when Riker blew up at Picard on the bridge, I was like, what? But then you realize that next...
Yeah, that was a tough one, and they ended the episode on it.
Right, and they ended the episode and it was abrupt and it was like, oh crap. But that next episode, they come back and Riker comes in and he basically apologizes, and you realize, oh my God, this man has so much crap going on in his life. He's disconnected from his wife and his kid. He hasn't been able to mourn his son properly. Right. He hasn't been in command for a while. So he's, feeling like, out of practice with that in this critical situation. And it was like, oh, it does make sense. And I think that was the thing I really appreciated about the series, is that these characters had been allowed to move on in a way that the original series characters never got to. They never got to like move on and get promoted or go somewhere else and like do something else. They were always just like,
they never grew.
Right. And you never learned anything more about them. Like Sulu finally went off and became captain of another ship, but like Uhura was always the communications officer, and they were always just stuck in the same space. And they never had any real, other than like Spock, Kirk and McCoy, they didn't have any real emotional interactions with each other. Right. I mean, you could say what you want about like Star Trek V, but those scenes when Sybok comes in and starts like, well, let me release your pain. And we find out like McCoy's dad, what happened with him and stuff.
Yeah, that's probably the best scene in the movie.
Yeah, there's some real interaction there. And that was about the best that they got in a lot of ways. Yeah. Whereas in this series, we got to see like how they developed and how they interact with each other had changed. Picard and Riker are much more on equal footing. They're like old friends now instead of a captain and a first officer. And they just did that.
I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that Riker went on to become a captain.
Right.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. And they all had deeper motivations for what they were doing. When Riker and Picard were fighting on the bridge, because Picard said, we've got to fight. Riker was saying, no, we can't, we're not in a position to. Mm-hmm. But what Riker was doing was trying to save Picard and his son so they could have a relationship that he never was able to have with his son. So when he finally says to Picard, when they were basically dead in the water, you've killed us all, he's more or less saying, you screwed up your opportunity to have a life with your son by your decision.
Right. And it was beautifully done. One of the things, I haven't gone back and watched All Good Things, but the way that Picard, he wasn't bumbling and stumbling like he was in All Good Things, but he was arguing with Riker that we have to do this thing. This is how we're, and it kind of echoed the Picard from All Good Things to me, which was kind of interesting for me to watch. What is Riker going to listen? Is Riker, and Riker is his own person. One of the things I think that was outstanding to me, the first strong female character I think we had in Star Trek wasn't Beverly Crusher or Deanna Troi or even Yar. It was Ro Laren. And Ro was the template for Kira Nerys in Deep Space Nine, a very strong-willed woman that is, her own boss. it was wonderful to see Beverly become a badass, almost like Sarah Connor, you know. And Deanna Troi, that love and commitment that she had and that Riker had for her, his Imzadi. And you know, they had such great lines. I wish I would have talked another word besides Imzadi. And that argument that they had about you tried to take my pain away from me, and I'm butchering the line, but she's like, no, I was trying to help you deal with the pain, and you ran away. You ran to the stars. Right. And I'm like, what a wonderful set of dialogue and acting between these characters. It was just so heartwarming, and it was a wonderful thing to watch.
You asked before we started recording, raise your hand if you laughed and cried during the series. Where I came very close to crying was when they all thought we're dead. Yeah. And Riker is in the Borg ship. They've just detonated the core. Everything's blowing all to hell. And Riker says, I'll be waiting for you, Imzadi, with our son. Mm-hmm. And she feels that love and goes to navigation and finds them. I was like, oh my God. One, that is her of the entire series to this that was that character's strongest moment. Exactly. That was that character.
I'm not joking.
No, I hear you. That character's strongest moment, and it was heartfelt, and it was incredible.
Lord Blood-Rah, it was as badass as anything they could have thrown at me in that series. That moment, and they all had different moments. I mean, we talked a little bit about Worf, but you know, when he sees Deanna for the first time, he's like, Deanna, I thought about you nonstop. And Riker's like, hey.
Wait a minute.
It was a really hilarious acknowledgement of that bad idea to ship Deanna and Worf in the final season of
I want to say it was 6 and 7.
6 and 7. It just really didn't work, but they just go ahead and say it happened, and Riker standing there like, what?
Worf was amazing. And I was worried when I saw the trailers when he was saying, I prefer pacifism now. I'm like, oh no, what have they done to this character? But no, he was fantastic because he probably had the highest body count.
He's a very bad pacifist.
Yeah, right.
He's very balanced.
His entire philosophical attitude now towards being a Klingon and who he is and what he does.
Well,
it's incredible.
And it's not just Worf. Oh, sorry, Walker.
I just wanted to say one of the things is when I first started watching Next Gen, I really didn't like Worf. And I think one of the things is because he came across as a bumbler, like every time somebody would come on the ship and he'd have to restrain them or something, he'd get thrown around. There was even that time they had the one character, those shapeshifters, and one was like a little old grandmother, and she'd beat the shit out of him. And it was just like, and then he'd always, profess, he would be like beating his chest about how tough he was and all this. I thought, God, this guy's just an idiot. And he got better though as the series went on. But then when he got on Deep Space Nine, he really things changed. And I love the progression they've had with him from Deep Space Nine, and now in this show, it's almost like he reminds me of a Shaolin monk or something, right? Yeah. He's just like, he's learned all this stuff. He's really, let it wash over him, and he's comfortable with himself. And the thing is, he reminds me, they used to always say Data is the Spock of Next Generation. I always thought Worf was the Spock of Next Generation because he was in two worlds. He had to learn how to be comfortable with himself. He was always felt like maybe he had to be more Klingon than Klingon to prove that he was a Klingon, and he's gone through all this growth, right? And now he's just like super comfortable with himself. And Spock was the same way. He finally got to a place where he was like just real comfortable with who he was. Right. And anyway, that's all I got to say about that.
You hit the nail on the head. I mean, when he's like Worf, son of Moog, house of Martok, Bane of the Duras
family.
Fuck yeah.
You like some tea? Yeah, he
my
has some
God.
incredible. And when they all get back on the ship, just like a Jedi, they all get back on the ship. He sits down and goes to sleep. Okay, the fight's done. I'm gonna get some rest.
When they go on the ship and Picard's like, being here, what I've missed the most, the carpeting.
Yeah.
It's like Picard and Worf are totally unsentimental about the ship.
Right.
Worf gets, I prefer the Enterprise E. It had better weapons systems.
Right.
Yeah. It was not my fault what happened to it.
Yeah, that'll be interesting to find out.
Yeah.
What about
that's in a novel? That's from a novel, I believe.
Huh.
Worf commands the Enterprise E and it's destroyed. I'm not even sure which novel it is. But.
the Enterprise E was a good-looking ship.
Yeah.
Well, they definitely went on a deep dive in a lot of this.
Oh yeah. Matalas knows his Star Trek, man. I mean, he was, and he's making. You can know Star Trek and make connections back to things that are totally stupid.
Yeah.
He didn't. He did. He made connections and stuff that made sense, that brought things in from the past that should have been brought in from the past and fit in organically with everything else that was going on.
Well, look, we need to talk about Data before our time together is over. From the time that he created his daughter Lal to meeting Sharzenka and Whisper in the Night, building relationships with his crewmates, becoming fully functional with Tasha Yar, getting a cat named Spot painting, and just the wonderful development of this character over 7 years and several movies. And like I said, the way they ended Data, it just, they introduced B4 and it's like, it still irks me, even though they tried to retcon everything with Picard. Now, the first season they did the AI and they tried to de-age and I don't know how successful that was. Thank God they said, you know what, this is a new version of Data. He's going to have a pot belly and a receding hairline. We're going to go with it. And I'm like, that moment where he's talking with Lore, and Lore is taking the trophies, the painting and the holograph of Yar, and it could be, those of you that are listening to Planet 8, we lost our home, my family in February, and we'll talk more about that in the tail end. But we also lost our cat Gizmo, and so when Data talks about his cat,
yes. Oh yeah,
very hard.
It was great.
Yeah,
it was great. And the overall story is that here's Lore, who was so greedy, and I was like, I won. And then I started crying. I'm like, oh no, shit, he won. And I was like, oh no, Data's, the one who prevails. Like, thank God. Now, does that mean Data has part of Lore in him? And, is he going to do like practical jokes and here, pull my finger, Captain, and, things of that nature? Or is there a possibility that Lore will actually interfere with Data's true nature?
No, I think it's already there. I think that he is an amalgam of everything that was in him, because the scene where he wants to take the ship in, and they said, no, it's impossible. Trust me. He gets aggressive. Trust me, I can do this. Let me do this.
I totally thought that was Lore at that point.
He has a big smile on his face.
Right. Oh yeah. And when Geordi, when Geordi was going to run to the bridge, he's like, Geordi, no, we need a plan.
Yeah.
No, you can't save them like this. We need a plan.
Right.
He's become human with Data's personality, which is almost Data less, I don't know, childlike, I guess, more with an emotional understanding of what's going on around him.
It kind of reminds me, what was that episode in the original series where Kirk got split in half?
The Enemy Within.
Unicorn dog. And the two could not survive.
Exactly.
But together, the good and the bad, the weak and the strong, there were characteristics between the two that made the whole.
Right. It's almost like, imagine if we'd been stuck with like the gentle, benevolent Kirk all this time.
Right.
And He'd be interesting to some degree, and you'd think he was a nice person, but he would have been very ineffectual in a lot of ways, especially as a commander. But yeah, you put the two together. So yeah, I Lord Blood-Rah, totally thought the same thing when he was telling them, "Let me do this. I can do this."
Right.
That was all the drive and desire and everything that Lore always had. You know.
Well, it's like that's the best parts of both.
Right.
And we talked about this before the episode, but yeah, I mean, they had that conflict and they had the doubtfulness of, is he going to be really going to be part of the crew? Is he really going to help us out, or is he going to sabotage? But it only lasted till the end of that episode.
Yeah.
And then it was kind of taken care of and established, and he could go on in the following episodes to work and do whatever with the crew.
I wish there were more scenes between Data and Geordi. They have such a wonderful rapport and relationship. It also would have been cool for Data to have had a conversation with his daughter from the first series, whose name eludes me.
Oh, right.
Yeah, they didn't have any kind of interaction, and they gave a whole series, to talk about his daughters. Missed opportunity. And let's not forget Geordi's daughter and that relationship. What they do with just 5 or 10 minutes is really good writing.
Yes.
Really good acting.
Yeah.
Well, he had 2 daughters.
Yeah, one is his real daughter.
One is his real daughter.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
But
and speaking of the writing, I don't know if we mentioned much about Shaw. Yeah, Shaw, incredible character, fantastic character, and
layers to that
writer
character.
Had him a villain from the beginning.
Yeah.
He would have sold them out.
Yep.
You meet him first episode. He does not buy into the hero worship of Picard and Riker. They say, "Well, we're going to take the ship over here for a shakedown cruise." No, you're not. No, you cowboys, you're not taking my ship. And you half board drive me nuts. That kind of thing. It's like not even borderline. He was offensive.
Oh yeah.
Dude.
Oh yeah. He
Walks
puts
out
them in
with
those
his
little
bottle
bunks.
of wine. Call me if anything happens. And so even into the next episode, was it the next episode or was 2 episodes in where he says, "I called Starfleet." So they're on their way, folks, and he's happy in the lift, like get rid of these 2 assholes, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And then the turnaround, then no, you understand why he's this way,
right?
What's going on with him, the whole, and something that I saw in a video today that didn't dawn on me, but that whole speech about him at Wolf 359, very reminiscent of the speech from Jaws.
Jaws, yeah.
And that was Robert Shaw.
Yeah, I saw somebody make this comment. Yeah,
I did not put that together. Like, oh yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Great character. Would like to have seen him go on. That would have been cool to see him go on.
That would have been cool.
Great arc. Wonderful character.
I think in talking with about Captain Shaw, we have to talk about now Captain 7 of 9.
Yeah. Again, another character I found annoying in Picard 2.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like, Picard 2 was just
almost everybody was annoying.
Great.
Yeah.
Well, never mind.
Yeah.
In this, her character, she was very good. She was very self-possessed, knew she had to deal with this captain that respected her and yet kept dead naming her.
Right.
And so showing disrespect for her in a public way, but then at the end knowing that he was recommending her for a captaincy because she was just a good officer. Period. Very, very well done. Very good progression of the character.
And he made the comment that she goes against the book every opportunity she has, and maybe we need leaders who go against the book once in a while.
Yeah.
And he in a way realizing his own issues and fallacies and the trust that he had in his second in command. It was just really good episode.
Probably his PTSD from Wolf 359 that made him such a by the book captain, because he was a good captain.
He was.
He looked after his crew, maintained his ship. He was a good captain, but just
he respected the chain of command.
Exactly. We were seeing him at his worst when Picard and Riker came on board. So from there on, we're basically getting him kind of at his worst.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I think one of the funniest scenes had to be when Jack got his place on the Enterprise. And he comes walking on there and starts throwing out orders and sitting in the chair. And, you think, oh, man, they made him captain, until 7 or 9 comes out and says, get out of the chair.
Yeah. I do want to mention, too, how fun it was to go to the Fleet Museum and see some of those ships from other shows and movies.
To see the Enterprise again.
Yeah, that Geordi has been personally working on restoring the Enterprise D for all these years.
That was an interesting choice too for Geordi. It's like, okay, and plus he was a Commodore. We don't see that rank very often now in later Star Trek series. I don't know if it was like, well, we don't want him to be an admiral like Picard, but we got to give him something. So they had him be a Commodore. But it was interesting to see, his choices too, right? Because he's not just like in the past, Picard said, oh, Geordi, I need your help. Of course, he would be like, yeah, let's whatever you want, But obviously he has his priorities, which are his daughters now. And he's, sitting there like, no, you come on my ship, or you come over here to the museum and you're going to stay here. And the situation with his daughter, and his daughter basically having to remind him what it is to be a Starfleet officer and the obligations that you take on. I thought that was really good.
That was
one minor quibble. Why did the Starfleet Museum have Klingon ships and a Romulan ship? Wouldn't those governments have demanded those ships back? Because was Kronos one of the ships that they had?
That's a good question.
I don't know, but I know like the what's the one in DC? The
Smithsonian?
Yeah, the like not agriculture, but anyway, there's a moai from Easter Island at the Smithsonian.
Is it on loan? Maybe they're on loan.
I don't know.
Well,
maybe
but
Klingons loaned the ship to the Federation. It crashed in the bay if it was a ship that Kirk and Spock were on.
But I was going to say it didn't have enemy technology from, and technology from an opposing.
Oh yeah, that's true.
Government though. I found that strange, but
that's how the Enterprise cloaks. We stole their cloaking device.
Stole the cloaking device. Yeah, that's why it was there. That's why it had to be there.
That's a good point.
The Federation. I thought we made a treaty that we would not put cloaking technology in. Yes, because I live in the Federation.
That's right.
That's real. We won't put cloaking tech in the ships. I'll have to
Commodore Walker.
Computer.
We'll see what happens. Like whenever a Klingon ship or a Romulan ship passes by the museum, they just cloak their ships, so they can't. They don't know they're there.
Right.
Well, I tell you, my friends, it was a wonderful season.
Oh yeah.
Well, before we wrap, though, there's one person I'd like to highlight.
Yes.
And that's Stephen Barton.
Oh yes, the music was awesome.
Oh yeah.
Great. He had a lot of callbacks to older themes from films and whatever. But he also had, the music. The original music that he did for the season, I thought it was a big step up from season 1 and 2.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Excellent
really
soundtrack.
Good work. Any good movie or TV show, it needs to have good music. Otherwise,
Well, it seems like the music in so many of these shows now is almost like an afterthought. Especially, I haven't paid much attention to network shows, but I watched a few things lately, and it's like, it sounds like this bargain basement synthesizer music. I don't know where they're getting it.
Well, see, the problem is if you think back, I mean, obviously you guys probably have as many soundtrack albums as I do, but you know, you hear soundtrack music or a cue or whatever, and it's like, oh, I know what movie that's from.
Mm-hmm.
Now you don't. It's like, yeah, it's also similar and generic that, you know, where's this music coming from? I don't know. Maybe Star Trek would be a Fuller House or something.
Going back to the Universal Monsters, right?
Yeah. Or, you know, I think of like Battlestar Galactica and Bear McQuarrie, and I mean, that is just such epic music that he wrote for every single episode, just about every single episode. Anyway,
they all feel very cinematic.
But if you think back, music is a very important part of Star Trek over the years.
Yeah.
And I think they kind of lost that somewhere along the way, and I think this will lead it back.
I heard a theory the other day from I watch YouTube. And so, you know, I'm well educated
too.
This guy who has a channel, he's a music producer, and he talks about a lot of different things about music. But one of his episodes the other day, he was talking about how we don't hear as much music in TV shows or movies. Some movies less so, but he says that he thinks that, and this is very ageist, but younger generations are not as focused on music as, say, like we are. And that this may come from being more obsessed with things like video games or watching TikTok videos or other stuff. And that, like, a lot of music that does come out today is rather simplistic or is very focused on very repetitive beats and things like that. So you just don't have like really complex musical structures that like we're more used to hearing in music, and they're not as focused on listening to music the way we grew up listening to like albums, right? So it's a different way of listening to things.
Well, I mean, I don't think anybody now will like lay back with their headphones on, close their eyes and listen to music.
Yeah, that's the other thing. You said they
need to be
right. They're multitasking, right? They're watching a TV show, they're playing a video game, they're on their phone texting with somebody. And so why would you want to listen to music at the same time?
I mean, I have trouble texting and pooping at the same time, so I don't know how these kids do it.
That's the only time I text.
I was wondering about that text you sent me.
Sorry it took so long to respond.
Do texts, do they float?
We all float down here.
But anyway,
I would love to see Picard season 3 on a big screen.
Oh, I
would go to a 10-hour marathon.
The last two episodes.
The last two episodes they released in IMAX.
Yeah, I heard that.
That would have been cool to see. It was pretty limited where they were.
Yeah.
It was very cinematic. It felt like it had the structure of a long movie.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I'm wondering the fact that the last two episodes were in IMAX, if that allowed them like a larger budget. Those episodes.
Could have been.
Could be.
I mean, you look at all the stuff that's going on with all the ships and all the formations and all the battles. Yeah. It's like, that's not your regular TV fare.
No.
You know.
Definitely.
And it wasn't a copy paste fleet like that.
Oh, that was terrible.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
But you know, it was a great send off for this crew. I mean, you had all good things, but then they did the movies. So then it felt like, oh, okay, that wasn't really the send off.
Right.
And then they did the movies, but then Nemesis was terrible. So now we finally got the great send off. And I gotta say, as somebody who's, getting older, it's nice to see older folks out there, kicking butt. So that was satisfying in that regard as well. But, if they said, hey, we're going to do Star Trek, what are they calling it? Star Trek Legacy?
Legacy.
And if it was Terry Matalas and the folks they showed us on the bridge at the end, even with Raffi, I would still watch it because they did such a fine job.
Yeah.
If Raffi comes on, they have to have Worf so he can say Rafaela.
Yeah.
So I guess we could say that we all liked season 3. Huh?
Loved it. Chef's kiss.
Yes.
Loved it. Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely brilliant. Yeah.
So that's good. We were all positive.
Absolutely. And
wow, we're all positive on something.
yeah. Oh.
Well, wait till next episode.
Just out of curiosity, the Xindi are going to fire on us in 3 seconds. I'll count down 3, and let's see which way we all shake on the count. When we hit 3, we all go whatever direction we're going to go. Okay. So 1, 2, 3.
See,
that was more like the original Star Trek.
Yeah.
Right, yeah.
Well, my friends, thank you for this time together. Our 5th year anniversary. Lord Blood-Rah joining the party once again.
Thank you, and congratulations again on 5 years. That's a feat. That's great.
I just don't know what to do with our free time.
Well, we got nothing else to do. That's why we do this.
So going with the new theme, we're going to have our sensor sweep. Bob's going to share something with us, and he's going to kick off. Each of us will take a few moments to kind of share what it is we're into right now, whether it's a book, whether we're going to put on some shows, or we have some podcasts somewhere else, or some YouTube or whatnot. So, Chief, why don't you go ahead and kick us off with sensor sweep?
Well, I'm putting on a couple shows. I kind of hinted, back when we were doing new episodes, I was kind of hinting at a show coming up. And after a whole year, literally a calendar year, almost to the day of negotiating, I finally got the okay to do an Ultraman show.
Yay!
As you can see, I'm not really an Ultraman fan. No. But we're going to be doing on July 21st through the 23rd at the 4-Star Theater in San Francisco. We're going to be doing Ultrafest. And we're just kind of in the planning stages now. We are confirmed that we'll be able to show the new Shin Ultraman. We also are going to be hopefully premiering brand new 4K restorations of the original 1966 Ultraman.
Oh.
And basically they're putting together like compilation movies, not like 80-minute movies with episodes from the original series. And they'll have like directors, writers, etc. come on at the beginning and introduce it and talk about why these episodes are their favorites or why they're so important, etc., etc. So we'll be sprinkling some of those in. And then I sent them a big old list of movies we want to show, and I'm waiting to hear back whether or not which ones we can show. And we do have some cool things going on. Mark Nagata, who does Max Toy Co., he's making he makes these like 6-inch tall, 5 or 6 inch tall Ultraman figures, fully licensed. He's going to make an exclusive Shin Ultraman figure for our show.
Nice.
And there'll be about, I think he's going to make like 30. So you're going to want to get your hands on those really quick.
Yeah.
And then we've got Jade City. They release Godzilla and Ultraman like hot sauce and coffees and all that. They're going to try to do a show exclusive coffee for us. Part cards. They did a whole set of Ultraman cards. They're working on another set now, but they're going to do an exclusive card for the show. I just sent them a Bay Area Film Events logo to go on there. So, and there's some other things that are going to come up that are really cool. So you're definitely going to want to check that out. It's going to be a co-production with Bay Area Film Events, Cinema SF, and Sci-Fi Japan. So you can keep an eye on Sci-Fi Japan for the latest information. You can also go to BayAreaFilmEvents.com/Ultraman and get your information there. And then if that wasn't enough, in August, over at the Balboa Theater, we'll be doing our yearly Godzilla Fest.
But wait, there's more?
There's more.
Woo-hoo!
There's Godzilla. So that was the last weekend of August. I guess like the 25th, 26th, something like that.
Cool.
And we're in the planning stages for Ultraman, and then we'll start thinking about Godzilla Fest. But we always, I know it's the 50th anniversary of everyone's favorite Godzilla versus Megalon.
Yeah.
So we'll do something with that. And it's also the 40th anniversary of the 1993 Godzilla versus Mechagodzilla. So that'll be a highlight. Next year, thinking way ahead, is the 50th anniversary of Mechagodzilla. So we may end up doing Mechagodzilla Fest next year.
Nice.
So we'll figure that out. But that's kind of what I've been up to. Other than that, Debbie and I have been binging on Penny Dreadful. So if you guys want to do a Penny Dreadful, we're catching up on that. I think we're about
I'm down for that.
three or four episodes into the second season right now.
I need to rewatch that. That was a great show.
Give us some time to finish that up, and then we can do an episode.
Well, give us time too. We'll have to start catching up with some rewatching.
Yeah, I've been trying to watch that and X-Files because we want to do an X-Files one. And
Oh, I got to get back to the X-Files.
and then there's just so much on. I mean, we just finished Picard. We just finished Mandalorian. We just finished, well, we're coming to the end of The Flash. We've been watching Superman and Lois, which has become a really good show.
Really?
I got to get back to that.
We kind of gave Gotham Knights a chance, and it's been pretty interesting. We're sticking with that for a little bit. So there's some cool stuff going on.
Definitely. Lord Blood-Rah, what might you have going on?
Well, my lords and ladies, I am proud to announce that Lord Blood-Rah's Nerve-Wracking Theater is now on the Nostalgia Network, NOST, the Nostalgia Network. And it's on every Saturday night at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and again at 2 a.m. or West Coast, 6 p.m. and 11 p.m. That's Saturday nights. All brand new episodes coming up. The Nostalgia Network, you could look at the listings at watchnost.com for a station near you. It's on over 40 stations across the country and streaming on Roku, Disk TV, Sling, a whole bunch of other platforms. So you can check it out.
Streaming is an app?
The streaming is, it's an app. Yeah. But you can also, like I say, on Sling or through Roku on its own, just get NOST and you can find it there. Or you can just watch it on broadcast TV at different stations. Like in the San Francisco Bay Area, it's KSQL, I think. I'm not quite sure. Best thing to do is go to watchnost.com and find a station near you to watch it, or streaming. And let's see, also every month I'm doing Chiller Diller Theater at the Orinda Theater, Orinda, California. Classic horror and science fiction films at this grand old movie palace with a full bar, which is always great. Classics like we've shown War of the Worlds. We're doing The Invisible Boy. We've got the original Tales from the Crypt coming up. Invasion of the Body Snatchers, various films coming up. If you check out Blood-Rah
versus Godzilla,
we're doing the newest Godzilla, King of the Monsters, in November. We're doing that one coming up in November, and we did King Kong versus Godzilla in January.
Yeah, the
original one. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, the original one. So you can go to lordbloodrah.com and check out the events for that to get that full schedule. And on August 12th, again at the Orinda Theater, Creatures Con is presenting the 55th anniversary of Night of the Living Dead. And we're going to be celebrating that with the screenwriter of Night of the Living Dead, John Russo. We're also going to be showing the very first zombie movie, White Zombie with Bela Lugosi. It's going to be special drinks, special food, guests, it's prizes. It's going to be great. So that's August 12th at the Orinda Theater. And again, you can get all that information at LordBlood-Rah.com.
Excellent. And Lord Blood-Rah, now that Picard is off the air and Mandalorian, what are you reading? What are you watching? What you're very busy, but if you have some spare time, what do you?
Let's see, what am I watching? But yeah, both of those shows just ended. You know what I'm watching pretty religiously is The Secret of Skinwalker Ranch.
Oh,
to that show.
Okay.
That is a fun show. I really.
Oh my God.
Evil is a fantastic show. It's not currently in a new season, but it's on Peacock, and it's a horror show that's very unique. It's like, I don't remember the name of the actor who played Luke Cage.
Oh,
yeah.
Series.
I saw 1 or 2 episodes of that. I need to check that out again.
Yeah, it's fun. It's about demonic the war against demons on Earth, and it's kind of a X-Files / Exorcist. I don't want to say Exorcist, but you got to check it out. Yeah, Evil on Peacock Networks. Really good. It's a good show. And I need to rewatch Penny Dreadful now.
Yeah.
We will do I swear, one way or another, we'll do a Penny Dreadful.
That's great. There's so many shows out there.
Definitely.
It's hard to catch up on.
My dear Walker, let's kick it up to the satellite. What are you into right now? What are you reading, watching?
What am I reading and watching? I am still quite slowly making my way through season 2 of Space 1999. like an episode every couple of weeks. So season 1 is quite charming. It's very gloomy. It's very almost like it's almost like a haunted house in space kind of thing going on, and they're just like at the whims of whatever happens to them. And then season 2, it has a totally different attitude. It's almost like Lost in Space 1999. Lost in Space 1999. It loses that creepy vibe that it had. It's just not as much fun to watch. So
my friend. Oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
No, go ahead, Lord.
Is season 2 when was it Ilea? Not Ilea, but the alien woman comes on board? Catherine
yes.
Chow.
Yeah.
That was season 2.
The shapeshifter comes on, yeah.
Okay.
And Freddie Freiberger from season 3 of original Star Trek is the producer on this as well.
That explains a lot.
So Maya the shapeshifter. The other thing I started watching a while back and have been making my way through is Terminator: The Sarah Connor Chronicles, which
oh my God,
I never saw when it came out, so I've been watching that, and it's actually pretty interesting.
That's with Summer Glau, right?
Yeah. Summer Glau. I'm surprised you're watching that, Walker.
Really? Why are you surprised?
It's very light on the sci-fi and more so kind of quasi-action and.
Well, yeah, it has a lot of action, but it kind of digs into the whole Terminator mythology and expands on it. And there's some interesting things that they do with it. And yeah, Summer Glau, it's like, okay. It's like, hey, we have this, cute little tiny girl who's a Terminator. But they do some interesting things with her. I mean,
we had just binged our way through Firefly. Not that it was a big binge, it was 13 episodes or something, but it's kicking a lot of butt in that too. So, especially the movie Serenity.
It's an interesting series. I'll tell you what, the Sarah Connor Chronicles, try to say that 3 times fast. It's far more entertaining than any of the Terminator films that came after Terminator 2.
I will agree with you on that, my friend.
So
I will agree with you on that. It's interesting how they tried to kind of show us the beginnings of Skynet and what the intent was in creating AI and anyway, it's been a minute since I watched it. And yeah, I watched because of summer, but it actually had some good episodes in it as well. So, okay, cool. Well, look, let me tell you, it's good to be back. Thank you, Karen and Bob, for the vignette you guys put on the best of episodes. What do we have, like 4 or 5 best of episodes?
Yeah, I think it was 4.
4? Okay, I lost count.
There was enough. We need to be new now.
Thank you. Yeah. My family and I are recovering. If you don't know, our home caught fire back in February. We lost our beloved cat Gizmo, along with all of the stuff. Well, 85 to 90% of over 50 years of collecting memorabilia, posters, autographs, models, ships, but it's stuff. My in-laws nearly lost their lives. My mother's hair caught on fire. Her head was 3rd-degree burns and over their bodies, not a large percentage of their bodies, but anyway, it is just stuff. But it's stuff that filled my single nights and weekends before I met my wife, and it was so much fun going to conventions and meeting people like Bob and Karen and Lord Blood-Rah, going to shows and getting autographs and compiling that stuff. And I want to send a very special thank you to Bill and Jason and Karen, who sent care packages of action figures and cracked magazines and tiki mugs. And, it's the 2.0 collection, as Karen had put it. And it warmed my heart, and I'm very grateful. I'm also very grateful to anyone and everyone who gave to the GoFundMe for the family. It's I don't want to be a Debbie Downer, but it's a weird thing to have to go out and buy a toothbrush and shampoo and a fingernail clipper because you no longer own any of that stuff anymore. But it's very important to have routine. And, I put on my Facebook page, I told Karen and Bob, I hear the echo in my head at night, 5. Hey, you numbskulls, what are we going to do? 4. And obviously the theme song to Planet 8. So once we got our rental home set up, I did want to get back to podcasting. And what a wonderful way to kick off our 5th anniversary with our friend, Lord Blood-Rah, who we've known for years. Appreciate you, Lord Blood-Rah. And Picard season. Thank you very much. Thank you. Picard season 3. What a wonderful thing to talk about. It's been a week or 2 since it came out, so I hope you guys enjoy this episode.
And speaking of the music too of Planet 8, it's been a while since we've thrown a shout out to Project Pimento.
Yes.
It finally allows us to use that music at the end of every episode.
They do. Their website, projectpimento.com. They just played at the Arizona Tiki Oasis. Yeah. Nice. One of these years, Karen, we're gonna have a Planet 8 party out there at Tiki Oasis in Arizona.
Okay.
But yeah, Project Pimento are great. I also wanted to give a plug. Bear with me one moment here, folks. Thank you, Karen.
Let me
magic hands.
If you go to Twitter, Carl Kolchak, Kolchak50. You can also go to monstrousbooks.com/shop/Kolchak. He came out with a wonderful 50th anniversary hardback.
Kolchak.
Hardback. And mine burned in the fire. And I reached out to him and I says, how much for a new copy? And he comped me and said, this is yours. Again. That's beautiful.
Nice.
So that's a graphic novel, or it's
a graphic novel, the 50th anniversary. There's several different covers. There are several different contributors. It is a wonderful work of art. If you guys can get a copy, I highly recommend it. It's a lot of fun. And one of the things that I'm watching is old episodes of Kolchak because I think everything's crap on TV right now. No, just kidding.
Well, that's the thing. It's like all these series they're all ending. the series or the seasons or whatever. And it's not like it used to be in the olden days where you'd watch a series from September all the way to like April or May, and then summer reruns until it comes back in September. It's like it's here for this much, and then it's gone for almost seems like a year or two, and then the next season comes out. So I mean, with all that coming to an end, I mean, for me, I watch Giants games and the Warriors playoff. So
it's Jasmine's watching the Warriors playoff with her dad right now.
Oh yeah, I mean they're playing right now, but
this was a lot of fun, and it was great to come back. I love you guys. I love what we do. In the beginning of before we started the podcast, did we realize 5 years from now we'd still be doing this? We did not, and yet here we are, still having fun. Any last words from our distinguished panel of podcasters?
I'm honored to be here for your 5th anniversary. May you have many more years. It's a great podcast, and I'm very fortunate to be a very small part of it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Lord Blood-Rah. Thank you.
Hey, as long as we can keep thinking of subjects to talk about, that's the key.
Well,
sure.
I'll tell you guys.
World out there, it's no problem at all.
Well, I mean, we come up with ideas once in a while. And it's like, oh, let's do it on this series. Well, I haven't seen that series in like 40 years. All right, well, start watching episodes before the next. Start binging.
Well, now we've been doing it so long. Sometimes we come up with ideas, and then it's like, we did that the first year that we were. It's like, oh yeah, that's right.
Yeah, that was me with Jaws a couple of months ago. I was like, we should Jaws, and Pop's like, we did, and I'm like, oh yeah, okay.
Yeah, I got to keep a list of the movies that I post because I was like, I've done that movie, haven't I?
But that's part of the fun. Is there's new stuff. Guardians 3's coming out. You probably can't see it behind me, but the local comic shop is giving out posters for the movie in a little baseball cap, and I was like, oh, thanks. But yeah, there's old stuff, new stuff. I got to get back into Superman. Or Lois and Superman, Bob. I love that show, and I just fell out of it. So
the interesting thing is between last season and this season, they changed the actor who plays Jonathan Kent.
Yeah, I read about that.
And I guess the other actor was having some mental, emotional issues, what have you, and he had to back out. They got this other guy, and it took a couple episodes, but he's kind of settled in. He's doing a good job. So
it happens. I mean, look at the Roseanne TV series. They changed the daughter, and anyway, we can go on and on. But we have reached that point in the show where we bid you adieu. Thank you all for sticking with us for 5 years. Be sure to share with your friends. Planet8podcast.com. The information for Lord Blood-Rah show, the Bay Area film events that Bob was talking about. We'll have all that on our webpage, and obviously please support us on our YouTube channel. We're doing videos now.
Now you get to see us, so hopefully that's not a deterrent. You can come and subscribe.
It was a risk that we had to take, but
you can still choose to just listen. But on YouTube, just turn off the picture. Yeah.
But in all,
you're not watching, going, God, those people are so old.
Hey, in all seriousness, you guys, thank you for listening. We love and appreciate you guys. Stay safe. Take care of your others. It's the end of the program. Peace out.
On that note, this will conclude this transmission from Planet 8. We would like to thank all of our intergalactic audience for listening. Be sure to head on over to our website at www.planet8podcast.com, where you can get more information on this episode's topic.
For more conversation, find us on Twitter at Planet8Cast.
Or on Facebook at facebook.com/Planet8Podcast.
We want to thank you guys for tuning in each and every episode. We look forward to your input and opinions. Until next time, this is Planet 8 signing off. End transmission.
By George, he's got it. It is the end.
Engage.